Okay, we're getting started with Chapter 1 in the text, Entrepreneurial Small Business. We're going to talk about some of the things that you need to know. Certainly want you to read through the entire chapter. The quiz that you'll have on this chapter, anything in this text is subject to be on the quiz, but I'm going to talk about some things, taking the topic matter here and going into a little bit more depth. And that information certainly is subject to being on the quiz. So pay special attention to this video. Also want you to view the other videos that are on the Blackboard site, and any of the content there is subject to being on the quiz. And the same is true not just for this chapter 1, but for any chapter, any forthcoming chapters that we are going to be studying, going through. So jump right in, and I'm trying to speed through this because I want to allow you plenty of time to view the other videos and to start thinking about your project, the production of a business plan. So jumping right in. Small business is defined on page 5 of the text. There are a variety of ways that small businesses are defined. The Small Business Administration has a definition. They define small businesses as one that has 500 or fewer employees. The authors of the text here focus on businesses with 1 to 50 employees, one being certainly the sole owner of the business, up to 50, and they do interchange the words small business owner and entrepreneur. And let's see, was there another phrase that they used? Self-employed throughout the text. So be mindful of that as you're reading through the text. Some interesting statistics on page 5 about the success or failure rate, depending on how you want to look at it, of small businesses. The Small Business Administration, which that's a government entity that keeps a lot of statistics on small businesses, and they also provide a lot of information and guidance on small businesses. They have found that over the years that approximately 50% of businesses fail within the first 4 years. That's a statistic that they cite regularly. According to the text here, it's actually owner-only firms, and so that would mean sole proprietors, businesses where the owner is the only person working in the business. The success rate of those is around 50% after 4 years. With firms that have employees, the success rate is about 67%, or as the text says, 2/3 of firms will survive 4 years. Why is that? Well, think about it. If a business starts out as a sole proprietor, single employee business, they may get by for a few years, and with some amount of success, maybe not so much success, at which point they decide to close the business. So those would fall into the category of the 50% failure. Well, those that have done well, the owner has a vision, and they have grown, will actually add employees. Adding an employee is a big step. It's a big commitment because not only from the business standpoint, because you have to actually start putting out money where for an employee, paying taxes for the employee, providing space for the employee to come every day and do their function, do their job function, and a whole host of other things that have to be taken into consideration that are expenses on the part of the business, whereas previously the owner of the business may have been okay with not taking a salary, and with that they wouldn't pay taxes, or very much in the way of taxes. There may be some taxes that are due even when you're not making money. They may operate out of their home, and so there's no extra expense for having an office space. But once the decision is made to take on an employee, There are a lot more expenses that are incurred. An employee, there are some businesses that will still run out of the owner's home, where they ask the employees to come into the home. Not many business owners are willing to do that. Not many spouses of business owners are willing to allow employees into their home, and so you have to move out into space somewhere. And those, all of those things bring on extra expenses. But the other side of it, the other viewpoint is, many business owners really do care about the employees that they bring on, and they don't want to bring someone on when, if there's a chance that they're going to have to let them go. At some point, it's certainly in the near future. Now, looking out several years, you may not be able to foresee what may happen to the business, but at least in the short run, many business owners are very good and considerate of an employee coming to work for a startup business, and they know that they're giving up a lot. That person may be giving up a lot for coming and doing that, and so for that, they don't want to put them in a situation that's going to hurt them financially. The owner may be willing to take on that financial burden of doing without a salary, or going with a lower salary for a number of years. But they're a lot of times very considerate of other employees, and so that's a reason why once they take that step and actually take on employees, they're usually pretty committed, and so that's why the success rate is higher, as is cited here in the text, 67%. So keep that in mind. The failure rates aren't quite as bad as they're sometimes. Those numbers are bounced around in the public. And certainly that would be a good topic of discussion on the discussion board as well. Okay. Trying to find the area where it talks about. I think it's here, still on page 5. Yeah. On page 5 there, just under the yellow box, it talks about the success and failure rates of businesses, and it talks about business incubators. And you're going to have a couple of clips, media clips, one audio, at least one audio and at least one video file talking about business incubators. As the text says here, I'll get to incubators in just a minute. 81% of the clients of small business development centers were still going after 5 years. What is a small business development center? Well, a small business development center is a facility. Generally, they're housed at a 4-year university. We have a number of them throughout the state here. Alabama A&M, I think University of North Alabama, University of Alabama Birmingham, University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, Auburn University, Jacksonville State University, University of South Alabama, Troy, University of West Alabama. There may be a few others that I've missed, but you can go into your favorite search engine and look up Alabama and Small Business Development Center, and you'll find the main consortium page, which has listings of all of these small business development centers throughout the state. I would encourage you to go look at that and get a familiarity with where those are located. They are strategically located throughout the state. They try to make them accessible to the majority of the citizens of the state. They have a lot of services there. They have a lot of mostly free, I think all free services. One of the big things that these small business development centers do is help businesses with government contract, or winning government contracts. The government has a lot of money to give out, and without some guidance, it's tough to know how to win those contracts. It's very, very tough for startup businesses to do that, but certainly once you get a business up and going, that is a good place, a good resource for finding out how to win government contracts. So would encourage you to become familiar with those facilities. They have free seminars from time to time about getting businesses started, about different aspects of business, like how to use accounting software such as QuickBooks or some others, the Peachtree software for accounting. They may have an attorney come in and give a seminar on some legal aspects of business, trademarks, copywriting, patents, things of that nature. So they're good facilities. They have a lot of guidance, but just be warned that many business owners have stated that they weren't exactly pointed in the right direction. So don't rely on facilities like that or entities like that for your one and only source of information and guidance. Certainly, you taking this course is a step in the right direction. Educating yourself in the area of entrepreneurship and finding out for yourself how to do it will probably serve you just as good or even better than seeking guidance from the Small Business Development Center, with the exception of the one area, as I mentioned, the government contracting. That is, they are very, very good at that. And so keep that in mind as you move forward in your business ownership careers. So small business development centers, clients of those are more successful. Also, tenants, those that occupy space in a business incubator, are about 87% are successful after 4 years. So even a little higher success rate than clients of small business development centers. Now, what is a business incubator? You've got a couple of clips to talk about business incubators, but I'll tell you very, very briefly here. A business incubator is a facility. A lot of times it's an old warehouse or something that has been subdivided into office space or manufacturing or warehousing space. A variety of uses can within a business incubator, but the idea is that multiple businesses are located within one facility, and it is subdivided. Typically, they have some shared space, shared services, and on-site consulting. Those are the three things that make a business incubator different than just a general office complex or some other type of business facility. So shared space, shared services, and on-site consulting. Shared space, what could that be? Well, it may be something like a conference room. Startup or young businesses may not can justify the cost of having space set aside dedicated for meeting space, such as a conference room where you have, 6, 10, 12 people that can come and listen to a presentation that you're giving as the business owner. The same may be true for all of the businesses located in this facility. So what they've done, they will generally have that type of space set aside, especially when you're only going to be using it 1 to 2 hours at a time at most, maybe twice a month, 3, 4, 5 times a month at the most. It's really hard to justify setting aside that space and the cost associated with it. However, if that's shared by 6, 8, 10, 20 businesses, it's a lot easier to justify the expense associated with that because your cost is cut, substantially. So that's an idea of the shared space. Another would be kitchen area or coffee lunchroom area. Certainly restrooms, snack vending machine area. You couldn't justify those kinds of things setting aside that kind of space at a young startup business, but in an incubator, it certainly is justified. What are the shared services part of that? The shared services are things such as copiers, shredders, a mail center where postage can be administered and metered onto your shipments. It may also have a drop box for FedEx. UPS, the Postal Service, where they'll pick up. Whereas, and it's convenient because this way you don't have to go to find a UPS store or find where the drop location is. They'll actually come to the facility, so it's very beneficial. It keeps you in the office more, and also doesn't require that you put money out for postal meters and all the other equipment that would maybe required there for things such as that. And there may also be shared services such as a receptionist. Whenever a phone call comes in, it may go to a single common location, and then the call may be routed out to the different businesses. But it keeps you from having to answer the phones all the time. And so that's an idea, or that's an example of shared services also. The third aspect of a business incubator is that of the on-site consultant. This person could be there part-time, could be there full-time. It may be a dual role between a consultant and the property manager that takes care of whatever goes on, the needs of the tenants, you know, plumbing, electrical, whatever. Usually those roles are split because a consultant's role is they're needed more for consulting by those firms, and not having to worry about trying to kill roaches or whatever. So usually those roles are split, but that is the third component of what makes a business incubator unique. So I would encourage you to go to the let's see, the National Association of Business Incubators, I believe it is. Do again a web search for your favorite um, web portal, such as Google, and then search for Business Incubation Association, National Business Incubation Association, NBIA, I believe is what it is, NBIA.org maybe. Check that out, and you'll see the business incubators in the state of Alabama, as well as other states, and some that specialize in things such as food distribution type companies, food manufacturing companies. There's one up in the Florence area that has a kitchen incubator, is what they call it, and they specialize, and they really try to recruit businesses that are in the food industry for manufacturing products. And so you may find a business incubator, somewhere in another state that specializes in your type of business, and may make it beneficial for you to locate your business there. So enough about business incubators there. Watch the other videos, and just be very familiar and think about how a business incubator could be utilized in your business. We'll spend some time in another clip talking about franchising. Franchising is very important. It is mentioned here on page 6, and we're not going to go into detail there, but I'll try to do another clip at another time. Talk in more detail about franchising and its importance. And when that's done, certainly you will have questions on a quiz about that. What is the difference between a small business and a high growth venture? This is in the academic world, and in a lot of cases in the media, the word entrepreneur is viewed as something highly specialized, something that is reserved for business owners that have created a business or created a product that is highly innovative. They themselves are seen as very creative. At its core, however, the word entrepreneur means someone who starts a venture, a business venture, and takes risk. That is the true definition of the word entrepreneur. But it's somehow been transformed over the years here in the last 20 years or so, with the technology boom, to mean someone who is very innovative and creative. That's really semantics as far as I'm concerned. But understand that there are differences between as table 1.1 on page 7 shows us, there are differences between what a traditional small business is and what a high growth venture, or what some may think of as something that an entrepreneur would run. There are differences between those. Okay. Another school of thought about entrepreneurs versus small business owners is that an entrepreneur can take something that is old and tired, for example, like we'll say a mechanic's repair shop or something. That's just a business that seemingly, Now I know it's not true because I've tried to work on my own car, but seemingly anyone can do with a little training. Um, and this shop over here compared to this shop compared to this shop, they're all the same. They all offer the same services. They're really no different. So what is it that differentiates one versus another versus another versus another? Well, it's hard to tell looking at it from the outside, but that is where a person can inject some level of entrepreneurship into the business. The things that they do, the way that they display their business name, the name of the business itself may attract people. Their location, putting thought and creativity, innovation again into an old business can make it entrepreneurial. We've got some examples here we'll talk about in another clip, but I want you to start thinking in that direction, and that may be a good topic of discussion for the discussion board about what types of businesses, what types of old, tired type businesses that have become commoditized, basically, can be made to be an entrepreneurial business. Okay, myths about small businesses certainly. Well, let's see. I'm sorry, backing up a little bit. The rewards for starting a small business. Be aware of those. Read through that section. The myths about small business. Certainly, those are definitely need to pay attention to those and read through those. I'm gonna highlight a couple of extra items on a few of these here. On page 10, talks about starts talking about the 5 myths of small business. One, the not enough financing. It is true that when the market turned down, the credit markets tightened in 2008. Banks and other lending sources really tightened their criteria, or really ramped up their criteria for providing loans, and that hurt the chances for small business owners or prospective small business owners to get money to either start a business or to continue to operate a business. And a lot of businesses that were in existence went under. There were a lot of businesses that never got off the ground because they couldn't get financing. Now, the Small Business Administration does guarantee loans up to a certain percent. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk more about that a little later on in the financing chapters of this book. But just be aware that although this not enough financing is considered a myth here by the authors, it is true that at the current time, it is challenging to find financing for small businesses. Now, that being said, I want to speak a little word of encouragement here. I know a number of small business bankers, and I'll tell you a little secret here. They have money to lend, and if banks don't lend money, they don't make money. So, what are they to do? You think on the other side of your situation and the person that you're talking to. Put yourself in their shoes. What is it that would make them want to provide money to you? They need to do it. They need to lend money to somebody in order to make money. You've got to position yourself in the best way possible in order to make them feel good about lending the money to you. And that's what this course is all about. The goal is producing a high quality business plan that you could actually use for a business if you so choose. With that, what I want to tell you to do is to start thinking about now what because the goal of this course is producing a business plan. Start thinking about what type of business you might want to for that business plan to be. Now, that doesn't mean that it's one that you absolutely have to do. You may get halfway through the semester and decide, oh, man, this, I thought of something else. Well, it's probably going to be too late at that point. It will be too late because you will have parts of assignments that will have to have been turned in already, and to reverse that, it's not going to allow you to have a high grade. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you would turn into a business, but I would certainly it will certainly help you if you have something in mind that you've been thinking about doing, or a hobby that you would like to turn into a business, or something that you are passionate about, because it's going to bleed into the different areas of the business plan, and it's going to help you shape that in your mind better, so that you'll be able to get it down on paper and produce the high quality business plan, which would lead into a business that will be successful and survive. So the second point here about myths: you can't start business during a recession. Not true. Read through that. Point number 3. Over half of businesses now are service-oriented businesses. I mentioned an auto mechanic earlier. That's a service. That's not a product. The parts that they put in would be products, but the service that what they're providing to you is a service. So more than 50% of the businesses out there are service businesses. Point number 4, and I really want you to pay attention to this: if you fail, you can't ever try again. I don't think anyone believes that. But that is the culture in many countries, some Scandinavian countries, many countries in Europe, and several in Asia, and certainly Japan. We have at any given time, we have about 11% of individuals who are in the process of starting a small business. In other countries, excuse me, we have 44% of 45% of individuals who are considering starting a small business. I worded that incorrectly to start with. On the contrary, in those countries that I mentioned, Scandinavian countries, Japan, some in Europe, those range anywhere from 2% to 12%. So you can see there is a stark difference between the level of interest of starting businesses in some countries versus the United States. Now, why is that? In some of those countries, and Japan is one that comes to mind. I read an article many years ago about the stigma that's put on them for failure, and it's almost a discouragement to do anything. It certainly does not encourage them to try and fail and try again, because it shames them as an individual. It may shame their family, their children, their parents, even lateral kin such as aunts and uncles, or second cousins, and there is a shame, there is a stigma attached to failure. Well, we just don't have that here in the United States. We have laws, we have tax code that actually encourages you to try, because if you fail, you can write off the bulk of your expenses, and actually incur a tax loss, and in many cases get money back on a portion of what you've put into the business. And so the policies are such that we're encouraged to try, and if we fail, try again. Those things aren't necessarily in place in other countries. When you attach that to the stigma of failure, then you get the result of the very, very low startup rates that I mentioned a minute ago. And the fifth item here under the myths of small business is that students don't have the skills to start a business. Well, that just is entirely not true. Entrepreneurship is one of the fastest growing areas in education. It's been proven through numerous studies that students who take a business planning course, or a course in entrepreneurship, have a much higher success rate with their business startups than other sources. And we'll flip back a few pages here to those. So we're one page here. No, excuse me, 3 pages. Page 5, the area that was talking about the success rate of businesses here. It says studies with college students in small business and entrepreneurship classes show similar results for programs in the United States and elsewhere. Small business knowledge means small business success. What I found in looking at the footnote there and reading that article is that the success rate is approaching 90% for students who have taken an entrepreneurship or business planning course. So that's slightly better than even the incubators, and certainly better than small business development centers clients, and much better than going it alone. So I commend you for taking this course. You will, your chances of being successful are much greater because of it. But why is that? Why do you think that a student, on the surface, why do you think a student would be more successful than someone who gets professional guidance? Well, myself, I believe there are two major reasons. One is that because you have learned in depth the keys to what make a business successful, you're better able to spot when the hard times come along, how to make changes, how to adjust, how to shift, and make it better. Instead of learning in what I call the school of hard knocks. I'm sure you've heard that phrase before. So learn it here and then go out and give it a try in the world, instead of going out and trying in the world, making mistakes and failing, and losing a lot of money and then having to start all over again. Again, if you do fail and start all over, not a huge deal. I've spoken to many groups on the topic of entrepreneurship, and I've made the statement something along the lines of talking about the 50% failure rate, and said, if you're one of those who have started a business, and this is your first business, your only business, and you're still in business, then you are the exception, not the rule. Not once have I had anyone come up to me after my speech and say, you know what, you're wrong. I am that person. This is my first and only business, and I'm successful, and it just doesn't happen. Now, they're probably out there, but I've not met them yet. So just, try things. And we'll talk about paths to entrepreneurship a couple of chapters from now. I think it's 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there. Paths to full-time entrepreneurship, paths to part-time entrepreneurship. So I'm excited about getting to those, but that is definitely a way where you can give something a try without stepping out there fully and leaving a full-time job or something of that nature. So students, the other point I wanted to make, you're better able to spot things once you actually get started. The other thing is, in the same vein, you're better able to judge whether or not a business will be successful, and so therefore, if you work through it and you say, hey, you know what, I would really like to do this, but chances are it's probably not going to work out, so maybe I shouldn't even start it. Well, if you know math and fractions, we'll look at the 50% success rate here. Let's use a pool of 100 businesses to start with. So that would be 50. Our numerator is 50. Our denominator is 100. So we've got 50% of businesses that are successful. Okay. Well, if you take students who have gone through a course such as this, and they say 20 of them decide that after going through a full detailed business plan, they say, you know what, I would like to do this, but if I'm being honest with myself, and I'm gonna use those words a lot in this course, being honest with yourself, thinking about things critically, and being honest with yourself. You'll hear those phrases a lot. If I'm being honest with myself, this probably isn't going to work. So if you get 20 students to say that, well, 20 out of that 100 never got started. Excuse me, 20 of those never got started. So your denominator now is 80. So 50 out of 80 were successful now instead of 50 out of 100. That's about an 82.5% success rate. So the fact that a certain number of students don't ever even get started with a business because they know it's going to fail if they do, that automatically increases the success rate. So I think that those are two contributing factors to why students that go through a business planning course or an entrepreneurship course are more successful than the general public, and even more successful than small business development center clients and tenants of business incubators. Okay, moving along, a few other points that we want to make here and try to wrap up this video so it'll give you time to view the other videos. Um, Page 13, the BRIE self-assessment. That is certainly a good activity to go through. We're not going to spend any time on it here, but certainly go through that. Page 15, we talked about innovation and creativity. Just be mindful of the definition of creative destruction. New opportunities on page 16 and 17, and it may. Okay, I'm going to try to post another video talking about new opportunities. Where do you get ideas for businesses? Either a new business or, as I said, a change to an existing type of business. Look around. When I've taught this course in the past, one of the things I had my students do was just to keep a log of their environment. Driving down the street, when you see a sign on the side of a building, does that sign, either the color scheme, the name of the business, the location of the sign, how far away it is from the building, how high it is off the ground, do those things make you, or do those things motivate you to go into that place of business and do business with them? And if so, why? If not, why not? Those are the kind of things that you can pay attention to, and will really benefit you when and if you decide to start your own business. Property locations, the location of a building. Is it near a major intersection? Is it across the street from a big manufacturing plant, and you can pick up a lot of business from the people who are exiting there every day at 3 o'clock to go home. There's so much that can be observed. I talked with a business banker one time, and he said he would go out and count the oil stains in parking spaces. And why is that? He used the example of Kmart versus Walmart. This is probably 20 years ago. And he said that he knew Kmart was in trouble many years ago. And just this week we heard that Kmart Sears filed for bankruptcy. Or was closing 100 plus stores around the country. And but this 20 years ago, Walmart was already big then, but certainly was not what it is today. But he could tell a decline in the preference of Kmart relative to Walmart because of the oil stains, and obviously when cars are parking there, unless they're in really really good shape, they're gonna drip a little oil. And so he would go out and just observe things like that the normal person may not even pay attention to. You see it, but you don't think, what does it mean? That's a big key. What do the things mean that you see? You see stuff all day long, every day. What do they mean? Think about that. Think critically about that, and you'll be able to make better decisions in a variety in a host of areas of the business of your business life. Okay, so, and I hope to be able to post some sources of information about trends in consumer purchasing and consumer buying patterns. One, I'll tell you, give you an example of something. You may be the same way. I don't wear a watch. If I need to know what time it is, I pull out my phone and I look at the time on my phone. Every phone that I know of, every cellular phone has a clock on it. That is something that's important. If you if you decide you want to make watches, who have you got to compete with? Not only have you got to compete with other watchmakers, you've also got to compete with phone manufacturers. Because although I'm not very young, I believe that my generation, maybe some slightly older, certainly those younger, those of you taking this course, you may not, you may be the same way. You may not wear a watch. You may rely on your cell phone for the time. And so those are things that you have to to take into consideration when deciding what type of business or product or service that you want to start. What are the trends? If someone saw that trend several years ago and they were in the watch manufacturing business, maybe they say, you know what, it's time for me to get out of this business. And I've had someone over here who's been wanting to buy my business for years. I think I'll take them up on that offer and go live, on an island somewhere. And so they sold, and the watch manufacturing business went downhill for a variety of reasons, not just because people look at their cell phone for the time. But those are the things that observing consumer purchasing patterns, consumer use patterns, will help you decide what type of business you may want to be in, or if you're already in that line of business, what changes you can make to capitalize on it. Okay, understand the aspects of global entrepreneurship on page 18. The VIGE model, read through and understand that, and social and public entrepreneurship, and corporate entrepreneurship on page 20. Corporate entrepreneurship, I'll give you an example of that. That is also known as, the word is called intrapreneur instead of entrepreneur. And what that means is you work within a corporation. It doesn't have to be a large corporation. Usually we tie the word large to corporation. Doesn't have to be, but you apply entrepreneurial skills, innovative thinking to a long-standing business and help them get to another level. Maybe they're stuck here for many, many years, but with some creativity, and your leadership and input, you can help take them up here. You'll also position yourself very well with the management in doing those type of things, and those things happen all the time. But we don't always think of it as an entrepreneurship. A lot of times we call it management, but it truly can be viewed as entrepreneurship. You think entrepreneurially. Another way that you can use entrepreneurial skills is in other people's business. We mentioned it in the corporate world, but also in very small businesses. If you understand what that owner, that entrepreneur is going through on a day-to-day basis, the decisions that they have to make, the expenses that they have to watch out for, you know those things, you understand those things, you will position yourself better to be able to help them, because if you can relieve some things from them so they can focus in other areas, trust me, that is a huge asset to them, and it's worth a lot to them. And when they will pay well for that skill and that relief of some of those tasks and chores that they would normally have to take on themselves. But your understanding of that is very valuable. So don't think that just because you're going through a course like this that you have to go out and start your own business. Certainly that is one goal. But another is to position yourself to be able to be that number two person in an organization, so that you can help lead that organization to the next level. And at some point, that senior person, is going to want to retire. Well, who are they going to look to take over their business someday? That person, they may very well look outside of the organization to sell it, but chances are they're going to want someone to come in there and take over that's been doing it for years, that knows the business and that they can trust is going to continue to run that business in a way that's going to provide them income, because that is a source of income for them for many years to come. That in many cases is that business owner's retirement. The business is their retirement, and so if it's put in the wrong hands, then their retirement is shot. So they will have to keep on making wise decisions. And like I said, if you can position yourself the right way, then you will be that wise decision that they make. So be thinking in that direction also, that may be a possibility. A possible way that you can use this entrepreneurial education. Okay, that's the end of this talk, and I'll have a few more short video clips, and then we'll jump into chapter 8, I believe it is, next.